Yo, what's good everybody? You got Sketch here and welcome back to the channel. On this episode we're checking out the newest installment of a Konami classic that merges everything about its universe together in an excellent retelling of the iconic original entry. We're looking at Contra, Operation Galuga, developed by WayForward and published by Konami, releasing in March of 2024. This entry pulls from the Contra universe and does a solid job of adding to the original. So let's talk about the story here for a moment. In the year 26XX, Bill Reiser and Lance Beam fly towards the Galuga archipelago after a meteor shower comes across the island, eventually bringing the Red Falcon. The terrorist group invades the island, and once dug in, a gravity wave begins to pulse from the surface. Red Falcon is looking for an artifact known as Limbris, and if they get to it first, the planet is doomed. The Earth Federation sends in the Contra unit to make contact with the GX unit that went missing, and smoke any and all threats in the process. Gameplay wise, you've got a 2.5D run and gun adventure that takes you through 8 levels of non-stop action. You can choose from Bill, Lance, and the Probotectors, and unlock more characters as you run the game's story mode, arcade mode, or its numerous challenges that are much tougher than they look. You get the original game reworked in a similar fashion to the Rebirth series of games that were on the Wii, except here you got most of the mechanics from Contra 3, 4, and Hardcore. You've also got a lot of options on how you'd like to experience the game with either a health bar like the Japanese release of Contra Hardcore, or you can keep it OG with the one-hit deaths. If you run the game with one-hit deaths on, you get bonus points for completing each stage. This in addition to the difficulty slider from easy to hard, you can pick your poison as far as the difficulty. All the weapons return, which feel like a mixture of Contra 1 through 3, including the homing and crush missiles. You've also got weapon levels where you can upgrade your weapons like Castlevania to level 2, making them more powerful. Similar to Contra Hardcore, weapons vary on character, and you also got overload attacks that trigger at level 2, which depending on what's equipped will be either offensive or more defensive maneuvers. The laser slow-mo is sick alongside the missile barrage and scatter shots. The movement is a lot like Contra Hardcore and Uprising, where each character has unique traits and special abilities. You can slide, grapple hook, and double jump through the stages, but that depends on what character you're running. Starting the game and getting clears will net you upgrades that you can apply right from the beginning, like auto weapon leveling, barriers, extra health, and the like. These are a lot of fun to use, especially with certain builds you can straight up crack your characters, or you can do it old school with none of those upgrades at all, which does have an achievement. True to Contra, this one is challenging, much like all the entries before it. While not impossible, there are points where you're gonna get smoked. A lot. It's still a blast to play through, with or without the upgrades, you'll eventually get through it. And it's fun to play from the first to the last bullet. Once you clear the game, you receive credits to unlock perks, characters, and additional soundtracks, and the values of these kind of skyrocket significantly depending on what it is. Perks tended to be around 250 to 1,000 points, while characters and soundtracks were 5 to 8,000 points. The best way to get points here was to do one-hit runs and clear it in one sitting, which takes about an hour. Graphics-wise, Contra Operation Galuga runs on the Unity engine, and this has some mid and high points, but overall it looks good with its reimagined encounters and stages. Well, most of them. A lot of the stages from the original Contra return, like the jungles and ice space, but what isn't here is the power zone and base stages that have the gallery viewpoint. What you do get, however, are sprawling reimagined area stages that you know, and new stages that fuse the visual styles of Hardcore, Rising, and Contra 3. While it doesn't have the same scaling techniques as Hardcore or Contra 3, the concepts are closely mimicked. The mirror and skewing effects from Castlevania Bloodlines are also in here too, which is also pretty tight. This adds a new coat of paint while taking you through the base of the original Contra, mixing in some sections of several Contra entries, which again, most veteran players will recognize. Through the game's story mode, the narrative will introduce a few new characters along with several returning ones. What's funny here is that it fills in the gap of how Brad McFame becomes the mechanized werewolf, and the arc is pretty entertaining. You also get a greatest hits of enemies ranging from the foot soldiers to the alien hive, and there's a wide mix of new and returning bosses along with base enemies which the fans of the original series will recognize. You also get a lot of characters to play as, including some of the hardcore like Sheena, Brad, and Brownie. In-game animations of the cast do look decent, with a few spots looking a little bit wonky with some stiff animations. The train level mainly comes to mind here when you see it and you really notice it. The bosses are by far the biggest change seen in Contra Operation Galuga compared to the original Contra, and the reimagined and new encounters are pretty insane. Seeing some of the enemies from the original Contra redone and in some cases combined into multi-damage phase encounters is pretty dope. What's even better here is that the new encounters with the new bosses are also mixed in, and these will keep you on your toes while roasting your eyes simultaneously with some truly intense encounters. There's also cutscenes between stages, and these are in the vein of Hardcore, and these fill in the narrative to let you know what's next in the mission. Some of these are animated, with the rest being static images with voice dialogue. This also feels like a fusion of several narrative styles Contra has used over the years, and this certainly has its moments when it looks good. Sound-wise, Operation Galuga bangs with an assortment of tunes and sound effects that all should sound familiar to fans of the series, reworked with orchestral sound by the composer duo of Yuko Komiyama and Norihiko Hibino. The music is a tribute to all things Contra, also featuring most of the original stage tunes used from the games, along with a medley of Super Seed tunes, all done with orchestral backing, and this all sounds awesome. The sound effects are sick, considering that you get a mixture of new audio with classics like the sounds of losing a stock, gaining extra lives, and grabbing power-ups. It's really cool that you have a variety of sound bits to use, and if you want to listen to the original soundtrack, contracts, you can unlock them along with Castlevania for 5,000 credits each. I'll unlock these two eventually, but these are almost as much as unlocking characters. Speaking of characters, several of them are fully voiced during the game's story mode and parts of the arcade mode. You get an ensemble cast with Steve Bloom and Alejandro Saab as Bill and Lance, alongside Angelita Esperanza and Kira Buckland as Ariana and Lucia, just to name a few. There are some fun bits of dialogue in here, and it's about what you'd expect, with a few surprises thrown in for good measure, but overall, it's pretty entertaining. To sum it all up, Contra Operation Galuga is a great reimagining of the first iconic entry, while making a whole new experience that OG fans will enjoy, and newcomers can see an updated example of what makes the series stick with you, aside from the difficulty. You get a more in-depth take on how the story began, while getting some clever spins on the series timeline, and how much of this will be canon is anybody's guess, but either way, it's a whole lot of fun. While not every bit of it lands, there's more than enough for fans and newcomers to enjoy, and hopefully Konami will give more of their IPs this treatment, since this will be rad to see more projects like this. Contra Operation Galuga gets an 8.5 out of 10 and comes highly recommended to longtime Contra fans and fans of run and gun style games. For what you get out of the box, there's a ton of things to do, and going for that higher challenge each time makes it really fun to play and learn. Once you can run the game on the hard mode with one-hit deaths, you'll be attacking aggressively in no time, or at least until you unlock everything. While not quite a perfect Contra game, it's a damn good one, with the physical copies hopefully shipping in September. Digital downloads are available on all consoles and is somewhat frequently on discount, so if you're curious, give it a look. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, and if you find these videos helpful, that's awesome, glad to use it as a resource. Check back often, we'll have more reviews and commentaries coming up in the near future, but until then, take it easy and stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next one.